All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It is Tuesday, April 30th. We got 16 games on today's MLB slate. Like we always do, we're going to go through each and every one of these games. I'm going to give you my lean on the side. I'll give you my lean on the total. We'll talk about any other plays like player props that we like within the game as well. But as always, all of my final plays, if you do want to fade me or if you want to ride with me, all of those plays will be in the pinned comment. In terms of last night, so 2 nights ago, we go 4-2, and last night we go 2-4 with 2 pushes as well. So we gave it all right back. A lot of bets there for not the best return. So hopefully we can bounce back today. The Yankees money line, at least it was a quarter unit play. All the rest were half units, so maybe there's a silver lining there. But Jesus Sanchez was like the luckiest play of all time. He had 1 at bat, got a single, and I was like, oh great, we have his under and bases, right? Then he misses a fly ball in the outfield. Next time at the plate, the manager pinch hits for him. So the manager didn't pitch in for him. The manager decided to throw in a pinch hitter because I think he was mad at how Sanchez was out in the field. So we got kind of lucky there. So even one of our wins was lucky-ish, but nonetheless, looking to bounce back today. We're still up on the season, barring we don't blow it all tonight, so we'll recap you tomorrow on the first of the month on how we did to start the year. But yeah, a 2-4 night with 2 pushes, not all the best. Those pushes because of postponements. In terms of our daily dinger, we picked 2 today. Pumping some crowd noise, change the vibes up. We got Lushington calling Christopher Morel and my man Mark, a channel member here, calling Gunnar Henderson. Shout out to you two. If you guys don't know what the daily dinger is, it's really simple. All you have to use is hashtag daily dinger in the comments and then throw out someone that you think is going to hit a home run today. Come tomorrow's video, I'll pick someone at random or randomly pick a couple people like we did today that got it correct and give you a shout out. So use those hashtag daily dingers. There's been a couple people like Mark, for example, has got this a couple times. So shout out to him. But yeah, shout out to everyone that posts that in the comments. Obviously home runs are not very easy to predict. Guys, before we do jump into today's slate, and like I said, we got a big one. If you're not aware, we do have the dashboard that we've been putting out for free as of late. What we do is pretty much give a bird's eye view or a general sort of starting point for each and every game, you know, green and red, letting you know what's good, what's bad, that type of thing. This has been free for everyone. I've been saying that it's going to be only channel members pretty soon, but shout out to someone in the comments yesterday, SF, saying it'd be pretty cool if you kind of put like a like goal, and the more you hit that like goal, the longer this stays free to everyone. So let's say if we hit 250 likes today on today's video, this dashboard will be free yet again for another day, and we'll see how long we could do that. So go ahead and hit that like button and hit that subscribe button as well if you want the dashboard to remain free. Like, I don't know how, how many likes or how much you guys are liking this, but so far in the Discord, in the comments, looks like you guys are loving that dashboard overall. So hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let's get rolling with today's show. Started off with Detroit taking on St. Louis. This is one of the games that got postponed yesterday. I think the postponed game is the one that we'll look at in a few games here in terms of the starting pitchers. But as of right now, this first one, we have Kyle Gibson on the mound for St. Louis going up against Jack Flaherty. Kyle Gibson not off to the best start. I wouldn't say Jack Flaherty is, but his ERA and FIP don't necessarily match. So obviously there's some fielding that's impacting his ERA as well. But back to Kyle Gibson, a 4.3 ERA, 5.2 FIP. His expected FIP is a 4.53, so not all that great. Looking at Flaherty, a 4.91 ERA, you think that's terrible, right? But his whip is 1.16, his FIP is 3.61, and FIP is fielding independent pitching. So obviously what happens behind you doesn't necessarily matter. It's all about your pitching. I would say it's more of a, it's less of a misleading stat than even ERA. And his expected FIP is 2.71, and his expected ERA is down as well. So I do think Detroit has the pitching edge here. St. Louis probably has a little bit of a batting edge, but nonetheless, I like Detroit as well as Detroit's bullpen. I'm going to lean towards them on the money line in this spot. I think this may be the only one we roll with if we are betting on either one of these double headers today. If you guys don't know, maybe it's just like a thing that I do, but I feel way more comfortable betting on the first, head of a double header versus the second one, because I feel like, at the first, maybe there's the excitement and in the normal sort of game vibe, but the second one, it's like we just played this team a couple hours ago. In terms of a total here, I'll also take a peek at the under. Neither one of these offenses really impresses me, and I think that Jack Flaherty maybe I'm crazy saying it, may have a pretty good day today. He hasn't necessarily, you look at his stats, and like I said, ERA hasn't necessarily looked all that great to start the year, but his whip looks good, his expected FIP looks good, and I don't mind taking a peek at potentially his over 5.5 strikeouts here. You can get that for nearly even odds over on FanDuel. He's done it in 4 of his 5 starts this season. He's done it in 3 straight games, and if you want some sort of reassurance, I guess, St. Louis against righties on the road this year, 24th in terms of K percentage. Only 6 or 7 teams worse than them in the entire league. So that's a player prop that I'm actually kind of considering as well. Jack Flaherty over 5.5 Ks. He also throws a lot of sliders at the second pitch. That is an absolute terrible pitch. This St. Louis team cannot hit sliders to save their life. So some signs point to a nice little value play for Jack Flaherty here over 5.5 Ks. All right, next up, one that we got burnt by yesterday. We have the Orioles taking on the Yanks. Yesterday, we had the Yankees money line, and I also leaned towards the over. Didn't make it a final play. The final score is 2-0, so we really didn't read that one all that well. But I do think that this could and should be a bounce-back spot for the Yankees. Dean Kramer on the mound for Baltimore. 4.6 ERA, a FIP of 4.67. Not necessarily a stud out there. Nestor Cortez is on the mound here for the Yankees. He's had a pretty good start to the year, but he has also been hit or miss. So to me, I get a little worrisome backing Nestor Cortez per se, but I do trust the Yankees bats to not have 2 duds in a row here. You're talking about a team that against right-handed pitchers in the last 30 days, 7th in average, 2nd in WRC+, 5th in K percentage. In fact, I'm just wasting my breath. Look at this. This is where they rank against right-handed pitchers in average, WRC+, plus, all these batting stats, right? And then right-handed pitchers on the road, they should absolutely get to Kramer today, or at least I would hope that they would. In terms of, his types of pitches and whatnot too, he does throw a lot of fastballs, which Yankees aren't great at hitting fastballs, but his next 3 pitches, cutter, splitter, and sinker. In terms of runs above average here, the Yankees 8th against cutter, 1st in splitter against splitters, and 5th against sinker. So it should be, I would say, a decent spot for him. And Dean Kramer hasn't had the most success here against the Yanks overall, whereas Nestor Cortez in 109 plate appearances has a 180 batting average against, a 223 WOBA, a 236 expected WOBA, only a 278 expected slugging, and an expected batting average against of 177. So he should be able to hang in there against this Baltimore squad. I also don't mind taking a peek at the Nerfy here. So there's a couple reasons why I like this. First off, when you look at Nestor Cortez, his last 4 starts have been Nerfies. And obviously, I just said he has some good success against the Baltimore team. My one concern, it's Miami, Cleveland, Tampa Bay, and Oakland are those last 4. The times this season in which he's blown the Nerfy would be Houston and Arizona. So yes, I do understand that this is kind of like a spot in which, well, maybe this offense is better than some of the ones he's been seeing as of late. But even Dean Kramer, when he's pitched for the Yankees this year, 4 of his 5 starts have ended in a Nerfy. So I don't mind taking a peek at the Nerfy here. This is a plus 100 play on FanDuel or DraftKings. You pick your favorite spot there. In terms of a total, I'll lean, if this kind of goes against the Nerfy, but I'm going to lean towards the over. I do think that this is a spot in which the Yankees, at some point, the bats kind of go off here. But we didn't see it yesterday, so I'm less confident in it now than I was saying that to you guys yesterday, to be completely honest. All right, probably my least favorite matchup on today's slate. We got Miami hosting Colorado here. Miami, we just talked about it. We did have a cash in there yesterday, but they got 4 games swept by the Washington Nationals, and the Nationals were underdogs in every one of those games. Colorado got mini swept, I guess, by Houston, but nonetheless, like, this is just a spot in which I'm not paying minus 140 for Miami with Sixto Sanchez on the mound. I don't think that he's all that great, but Ryan Feltner's on the mound for Colorado. I don't think he's all that great. Like, this is just a bad matchup. So when we have bad matchups, we say screw it, let's lean towards the underdog, because again, I'm not paying minus 142 or beyond for Miami here. In terms of the total, I'll also lean towards the under. This ain't Colorado, this is Miami, so I don't necessarily see a bunch of home runs or anything like that, so I'll lean towards the under as well. But this is by far and away my least favorite game on today's slate, so apologies for moving through it kind of quickly. All right, after that dud of a game, we got to talk about something kind of cool, and I want to talk to you guys about Sleeper before we get to the rest of the games. They have 2 free squares for new users available today, 1 in the NBA and 1 in the MLB. Jordan Montgomery strikeout line should be free, and Jalen Brunson's points line 0.5 points should be free, guys. If you don't know what Sleeper is, it's a player prop pick'em app. Say that 10 times quick. A player prop pick'em app in which you combine 2 or more player props into a slip, picking more or less of the projected line. And the more you win, the more you get paid out. You can win up to 100 times over on Sleeper, which is what I love about the app and why I preach it all the time. Each and every play has its own multiplier. So if you hit 2 for 2, it doesn't just mean 3x your money like most other apps. If you pick the right ones, you could 4x, yada, yada, yada. It's really, really cool, guys. You can also do alternate lines on there, which is something that not many apps out there have. So go ahead and check out Sleeper. You get these free squares, and oh, I forgot to mention, they will match your first deposit up to $500. That's absolutely insane. So go check it out. I love Sleeper. I think if you guys download it and give it a try, you will too. That link in the pinned comment will automatically apply all these discounts and get you the squares, or you could just sign up using code GUYBOSTON, GUYBOSTON, if you want to just find it in the App Store. Go check out Sleeper today. I don't think you'll regret it. Now let's go ahead and jump back into the rest of these games. All right, Detroit's taking on St. Louis. Like I said, I think I would still lean towards Detroit here, but if I'm gonna bet this, it's probably going to be the first game. So give me Detroit on the money line. Same thing applies, probably a slight lean towards the under, but I don't necessarily love what we're looking at from this perspective other than the first game. So on the mound for this one is going to be Steven Matz, who was supposed to go yesterday, I believe, up against Matt Manning. I just feel like I can consistently predict, we all know how that can go, that first game more than this. So same things apply, but I like that first game a lot more. All right, next game up, we have Toronto taking on Kansas City. I think it's clear this is going to be a pretty good series here on our hands. Yesterday, Toronto wins 6-5, and I do think that they have a good chance of winning today with Jose Barrios on the mound. Overall, this is a pitcher that's kind of looked, not to say spectacular, but pretty damn good in his last few starts. And on the season, 1.23 ERA with a 1.04 whip. Going up against who I would say, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, Cole Ragans, who's maybe more of like a potential and talented pitcher, but he's had some bad spots so far to start the year, including his last start, or I think it was his second to last start against Baltimore. He only went like 2 innings pitched with 7 runs, 9 hits, something like that. So yeah, he definitely has more of a blow up, and this is turning into be a pretty disciplined Toronto offense against left-handed pitchers. I think I still look at Kansas City here in this spot just because they're plus 120, and I can see them bouncing back after yesterday. But if you're on Toronto here, I wouldn't sit there and be like, no, that's a terrible pick. I'm not trying to convince anyone here. I'm just saying that I think I'm going to go with Kansas City because of the value. I think that their offense can hang with Jose Barrios. He's going to throw a lot of sinkers. They're not bad at hitting sinkers, so I think this is a good spot for them, especially at a plus 120 price tag. In terms of a total, I like the over 7.5. I think the books are looking at this saying, hey, 2 really good pitchers. Like, this is obviously a spot in which they should be able to deal and blah, blah, blah. But let's not forget that we have 2 decent batters on, 2 decent offenses taking place here as well. So I'm going to take the over at 7.5. If this was like an 8.5 total, I don't think I'd pull the trigger or anything like that. But definitely a chance to do it at 7.5. A player prop that I'm liking is actually going to be Bobby Witt Jr. over 1.5 total bases. Jose Barrios here, or Barrios, is a right-handed pitcher. On the year here, Bobby Witt Jr. obviously batting really well, 308 overall, but his batting average jumps to 330 when facing a right-handed pitcher. His ISO jumps to 247, and Barrios against right-handed batters here, batting average 265, ERA jumps to 205, his slugging up to 410, extra base hit jumps as well. So this is definitely a spot in which, it's a matchup play, and obviously have a super talented player that we could be betting on here. So that's a lean, Bobby Witt Jr. over 1.5 total bases. All right, next up, kind of smells like a trap because the Mets are favored here over the Cubs, and I'll show you the dashboard in a second. This should be a spot in which we're looking at, a pitching advantage, a potential bullpen, a batting advantage, like a little bit crazy to me. And Chicago wins yesterday 3-1 as well. But yeah, let's just jump right into the dash actually. So ready? Should be a pitching advantage here for Chicago. Obviously, the bullpen, you can make that argument, but Chicago against left-handed pitchers this year. On the road, it doesn't matter, either straight up or on the road, absolutely crushing it. It's not like Sean Manaea has been absolutely dealing either, and Manaea is going to give you fastballs. Okay, Chicago doesn't hit that all that well. Cutter, they hit really well, right? Sinker, not all that great. Slider, middle of the pack, so it's nothing that would turn me off of looking at Chicago. This seems like a little bit of a trap line here, again, because of these numbers, and the fact that they're underdogs at plus 110. Little bit concerning to me, but you know what? We've never been afraid of a trap, so I do think that I still take a peek at Chicago here. And I also don't mind taking a peek at the over. You have Chicago, who's the #1 ranked team against lefties in the last 30 days for WRC+. Like, they should be able to create some runs here. And the Mets, though they scored 1 run yesterday, we've seen this offense kind of give you know, excluding maybe a couple games, and had one against St. Louis and whatnot, but they should be able to give you, in their last 5 or so, they've proved that they can give you a floor of 3 or 4 runs, right? So if I think Chicago wins this game, and the Mets give you a floor of 3, all we're looking for is 1 run to happen at some point throughout the game that we're not expecting, right? So I like the Cubs as well as a slight lean towards the over. All right, next up, we got the Red Sox taking on the Giants. My initial sort of read for this game was Red Sox at plus money. Like, I think so. You know, they've won 6 of the last 10, and the Giants have been super inconsistent, but to be completely honest, like looking at how Logan Webb's been doing and how the Red Sox have been against righties at home, I couldn't get there with the Sox. So I am going to lean towards the Giants in this spot on the money line. I might consider them first 5 because I definitely don't love their bullpen whatsoever, healthy or not, or, you know, taxed arms or not. Like, I just don't love their bullpen. So probably going to lean towards them on the first 5, as well as maybe taking a peek at the under. I do think that this is a spot in which Logan Webb should be able to handle this Red Sox team, who is obviously very inconsistent. On the mound for the Red Sox going to be Cooper Criswell, only 2 starts so far on the season. Hasn't looked terrible. I wouldn't say that whatsoever, but just overall, it's like this is a spot in which I think Logan Webb kind of comes in and deals. And again, the Red Sox, we can flash to the dash. Red Sox really struggling. This looks great, right, against right-handed pitchers, but last 30 days playing at home, not all that great. They're getting on base, but not many runs are coming in. They're not hitting for power. So to me, it's kind of like, and not even getting on base. They're getting hits overall and whatnot, but their on base percentage actually isn't that high. So I would throw that average out the window. That's the only green mark there, right? So I just don't think the offense comes today. So give me Logan Webb and the Giants and the under. No player props in this spot either. All right, before we get into this White Sox and Twins game, you guys made it this far into the video, go ahead and comment 16 in the comments. The vibes are high today. Go ahead and comment 16. Let me know that you made it this far into the video. Like I always say, I love when someone's like, what does 16 mean? And I'm like, that just shows that you're just skipping around the video. You're not a real one. You're probably a gup. So go ahead and comment 16. Let me know that you saw this and made it this far into the video. We got the White Sox taking on the Twins here. Simeon Woods Richardson on the mound for Minnesota, going up against Soroka. And I think you guys probably know at this point, or should, that I'm kind of just like a fade Soroka guy through and through. Now, he's looked kind of good in his last 2 starts. I'll give him some credit there, and his last start was against Minnesota, but ultimately Minnesota still wins that game 6-3, which I think is a good spot for them to bounce back here today, because in game number 1 of this series, game number 1, Minnesota only scored 3 runs. Chicago held on to that 2-2 tie for a while, so I guess not a bounce back spot. I misspoke there, but Minnesota here is going to be my play. In terms of whether it's first 5 or I guess we could say, is it full game? I think I might lean first 5. It looks like both setup men and their closer on Minnesota's bullpen here, they definitely have a better closer, are a little taxed, so they may not be getting the go, but either way, I think that you could still play money line overall and probably have a decent chance here in this one. In terms of a total, it's at 8.5. I want to say that Minnesota's bats are going to be good, but they're facing a righty today, and Soroka stinks, I know, but still, we've only really seen Minnesota go off against lefties, so I probably stick away from this total for now in terms of going over. So by default, I'm going to take a peek at the under. All right, Milwaukee taking on Tampa Bay. Now, I can't take full credit because I didn't make it a final play, so obviously I wish that wussed out to some degree here, but I did tell you guys I liked Tampa Bay yesterday, and I really liked Ryan Pepe Le Pew Papoit's over and outs. I didn't play either of them, okay, so I can't brag too much, but I got a lot of comments being like, you're taking Tampa Bay against Milwaukee, you're psycho, blah, blah, blah. Tampa Bay wins 1-0. I think it's going to be a different story today. Like, you get Freddie Peralta on the mound, too. I'm a big Freddie guy. My one concern here is going to be if Tampa Bay, if Milwaukee's bats can get off against Tyler Alexander here. So Alexander had one decent start, and it was his last game, right, against the Yankees. So I'll give him credit, but hasn't looked all that great. But overall, I mean, to be honest, I think he only has 2 starts. So what am I talking about? Or 3. But overall, this is a Milwaukee team that crushes righties, right? Like, make no mistake, look at this. Milwaukee against left-handed pitchers, that looks like a four-way stop in terms of an intersection, all that red. So I do think that this isn't the best spot for Milwaukee, but I gotta trust Peralta over Alexander in this spot. So give me Milwaukee on the money line here. Probably a full game money line, but I don't hate if you want to just isolate it to the first 5 to try and isolate Peralta against Alexander. I'd also take a peek at the under. Like, yes, Milwaukee is a good offense, but I don't necessarily sit here and be like, I think that, Alexander's going to go out there and I guess, I don't think he's going to do either, shut them down or do tremendous. So I don't think he's going to let up a bunch of runs. I also don't think he's going to absolutely pigeonhole them. So it is kind of risky taking the under, but I do think Freddie Peralta is going to have a pretty good outing out there. So I don't think, taking the under is all that tough. Now, a player prop that I'd like to take a peek at, I don't know what the line is because we don't have it out yet, but is Tyler Alexander's over in walks. Actually, if we just flash to the dash again, you can see that's one spot in which Milwaukee has been great against left-handed pitchers. Last 30 days, best in the league against left-handed in terms of drawing walks, second best against lefties at home. So definitely something to consider there. But yeah, overall, Milwaukee and the under for me. All right, Texas taking on Washington. This could be a game in which if this play doesn't come through, if we make it a final play, we could have our first official installment into the 15-day do not bet list, because I like Texas first 5 in this one. John Gray on the mound. Do I love him? Not necessarily, but I really don't like Mackenzie Gore, which could be kind of biased here for whatever reason, because he has looked plenty good. But to me, it's like I just think he's an overrated pitcher. And John Gray, I think he's a little bit underrated. So I do think that we're looking at a team in which, Texas at some point, I feel like they have to kind of get that offense going and potentially turn into the offense that we know. And against Mackenzie Gore, I do think this could be a good spot. So yes, could be a little crazy here. Definitely not worth the price tag, but I'm going to lean towards Texas. I sounded the psycho alert alarm. I get it. I also don't mind the over here. Like I said, I think Texas's offense could put up some runs today. And honestly, Washington's offense hasn't looked all that bad. It was against Miami, but last 3 games, 7, 12, and 11 runs. So it is what it is. I like the over in Texas. If we make that a final play and Texas doesn't come through, we've lost Texas first 5 enough that I think we put them on a 15-day little timeout. All right, Houston taking on Cleveland. I don't know where I come out on this one. You have Hunter Brown on the mound for Houston going up against Carlos Carrasco of Cleveland. Both these guys have not been all that great, so I guess I'll lean towards Houston, but I don't like that -154. But them against right-handed pitchers on the season, in the last 30 days, so pretty much all of April here. First in average, 4th in WRC+, first in K rate, lowest in K rate, I should say. On base percentage at 5th, OPS 6th, ISO 11th, slugging 8th. Compared to Cleveland's, it just doesn't look all that great, right? And even compare it on the road and at home. So both pitchers, but I do think Houston obviously has a batting advantage, but that's where the odds come in, right? And like I said, you're getting that at -154. Let's see if we bet -145 on Caesars. I guess I could get behind that, and it also depends on what we can get for first 5, because I don't want to trust this Houston bullpen. So I guess I go Houston money line or Houston first 5 money line. In terms of a total, I'll lean towards the over, even though it's super high, and I don't trust the Cleveland bats, but I can't trust either one of these damn pitchers, man. All right, today's final 5 games. Obviously, we're going to hop over to Fade Me, guys. If you don't know what a Fade Me is, it's the merch brand we have here on the channel. And the story, I guess I should say, with the final 5 is before we get to the final 5 games, I do pick a product or a few that have a discount for today. So go ahead and use code FINAL5. Type it out just like this when you get to it. Final 5, right? It's got the number, not the letter for 5. We're going to give you 20% off any of the Gambler collection here. Not the 2.0. This stuff is launching May 10th, which is absolutely some of the best stuff we've ever created. I have the samples in hand. It's absolutely fire. But go check out the Gambler. We have the classic tee, the hoodie, as well as the snapback hat. 20% off if you use code FINAL5 today over on fademe.store. I'll have a link to that in the pinned comment as well. If you want to find those products, you can literally just search GMBLR in the search bar and you'll find them. So go check it out, guys. Again, that code is FINAL5, but number 5, not typed out 5 there. But let's jump into this game. We got the Phillies taking on the Angels. This game went pretty according to plan yesterday. We took Phillies first 5. I said there's no way that I can trust this bullpen, and the Phillies ended up losing that game. So I guess luckily, but also smartly, intelligently, we did take the Phillies on the first 5, and it's going to be something that I consider yet again today. Now, you're not going to get the same odds, but I do still think that this is going to be the movie of Spencer Turnbull on the mound, going up against Tyler Anderson. Anderson's looked good, but his FIP is through the moon, and his expected FIP is through the moon, so his ERA and WHIP look very good, but I see that as almost like a potential ticking time bomb, if I'm being completely honest. So I do think that this is going to be a spot in which we trust Turnbull to get the job done. He's got a 1.3 ERA, 0.85 WHIP, and a 3.14 FIP on the season. In terms of the total, I guess I would say because of both the bullpens, like this could be a spot in which I just take the over or look at the over because I could see late runs coming in because I can't trust either of these bullpens. But honestly, my favorite play in this game is probably going to be Phillies here. First 5. Maybe it's first 5 run line if we want to get some potential plus money at -0.5 of a run. If you guys don't know the difference between first 5 money line or first 5 run line, one team will get plus 0.5, the other team will get minus 0.5, the favorite, right? And that means you have to win. If it's money line and they tie at the end of 5, you do get a push and get your money back. For run line, they have to win it essentially, if they're the favorite. So that might be a consideration too if we want to sort of up the odds. All right, Seattle taking on the Braves. My first play in this one is actually going to be looking at the pitcher for the Braves, Reynaldo Lopez. I don't mind looking at his over 6.5 strikeouts. It is a high line, but he's been hovering right around that pretty much all season. And he's going up against a team in the Mariners in which against right-handed pitchers this year, literally no one's striking out more than them. They try to strike out, it seems. Same thing at home. They have a 31.5% K rate. You're going to get a bunch of fastballs. They're not all that great against that. A bunch of sliders, not all that great against that. Changeups, not all that great. So he should have a pretty good chance here of striking out some guys overall. So for plus 120 odds over on FanDuel right now, like I might consider that. When it comes to the money line and everything like that, I think I'm gonna take a peek probably at the Braves. Overall, this was a game yesterday in which Seattle wins in a low scoring affair. I think that the Braves bounce back here. I think that they have a better pitcher on the mound. Luis Castillo. Okay, I should say this. Luis Castillo should be the better pitcher, but has he really proven it this season? Not necessarily. So that's how I would say that. The Mariners have been kind of a disappointment to some degree overall. At least they started the year like that, as did Castillo. So they're starting to kind of come back and whatnot. So I probably shouldn't say that. Reynaldo Lopez is better than Castillo because he's definitely not. But if you look at their seasons as a whole, he kind of definitely is so far, if that makes sense. But Castillo's last couple starts have been good, and I like Castillo, so I feel like I'm like cheating on him here, saying he's not pitching all that well, but he really isn't. And in terms of a total, I just do think that Atlanta bounces back a little bit here. So this is probably in a spot where I consider taking a peek at the over, even with those pitchers on the mound. I think Atlanta's going to give you at least 4 runs today, and then hopefully Seattle can kind of stay in it to some degree. D-backs taking on the Dodgers. I'm glad we didn't roll with it yesterday because, I think we did lean towards the over, so I wish we pulled the trigger on that. But we liked Arizona to some degree, and they got pumped 8-4. So today could be a little bit different, only given the fact that Logan Knack's on the mound for the Dodgers going up against Jordan Montgomery, who I did like in that last start. He's only had a couple on the year. Was it when they beat someone by 1 million and he looked pretty good. His last start he was okay, but Logan Knack hasn't really looked all that impressive. So I do think for the money you're getting could be a spot for Arizona because I think they have a clear-cut pitching advantage, but the offensive advantage is not there. So I think the money's good for Arizona, but again, Arizona's kind of like an unofficial do not bet lately. So I do think that it's kind of a spot in which I might stick away from, okay? But I just really can't back Landon. Did I say Logan Knack? Landon Knack in this spot. Total-wise, 9.5. I guess we saw yesterday that these two teams can put up double digits, so I'll lean that way again. We do see plenty of overs between these two teams, but we've also over the years seen a decent amount of unders, which is a little scary. But 10 runs for potentially what could be a Dodgers team kind of heating up. They had 1 run in their last game against Toronto, and then 8 runs yesterday. Maybe they kind of keep that momentum going. All right, Pittsburgh was one of our L's yesterday. We had him in the first 5, and I think I might run it back today. Alex Wood on the mound for Oakland. He's been meh. And Mitch Keller has also been kind of tough, but I do really not trust this Oakland lineup when it comes to, I guess, batting anyone, but especially against a right-handed pitcher here. In yesterday's game, like Oakland scoring 5 runs, they've been so inconsistent scoring. They'll literally score 5 runs and 0 the next day, so maybe that's the case today. In terms of the total, it's sitting at 8 right now. I can't see both of these teams having a successful day offensively, so I'm going to lean towards the under as well. In our last game here, we have San Diego taking on Cincinnati. This should be a San Diego game all the way. I think Yu Darvish is pitching. If Yu Darvish doesn't get the start, and then, I mean, obviously throw whatever I say out the window because we're not exactly sure who's pitching for them, but I think it's going to be him, and they have such a pitching advantage, a batting advantage in this spot as well. And Nick Martinez, last couple starts against the Mets and then the Phillies, did not look all that great. So this is probably a San Diego spot. I like them both first 5 and full game. When it comes to a total, I may just consider like San Diego's team total over, not necessarily the over overall, because again, I don't really know what we're going to get out of this Cincinnati offense altogether. But guys, that's going to wrap it up for today's show. Actually, pretty good timing in terms of what we're looking at here. 30 minutes in, we got through 16 games, so yeah, maybe it's because we didn't find a bunch of, like, you know, secondary plays and whatnot, but as always, keep an eye on the pinned comment because we may add stuff there. We're doing research literally constantly throughout the day, so keep an eye on the pinned comment. We might add some plays or update you guys, that type of thing, but yeah, hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We'll catch you guys in the next one, all right? Peace out.